In the 12th century, the mass translation of ancient Greek scientific and philosophical texts into Arabic triggered a systemic conflict across the Abrahamic religions. In the Islamic world, this sparked a tension between aql, the realm of human reason, empirical science, and logic, and naql, the tradition of inherited revelation. For highly educated believers, this created acute cognitive dissonance. They studied the undeniable rigor of Aristotelian physics by day, while following the anthropomorphic, literal poetry of the Bible by night. Moses Maimonides stepped into this fracture. He operated as a Galenic physician, an astronomer, a systematic philosopher, and a rabbinic authority, uniquely equipped to reconcile these colliding worldviews. He engineered a specific intellectual intervention for this crisis, a masterwork known in Arabic as Dalalat al-Hayrin, or the Guide to the Perplexed. Maimonides wrote for a specific demographic, the mathematically and scientifically trained initiate standing at the abyss, about to lose their faith to the pull of Greek logic. The Guide is a layered, systematic curriculum. It is designed to prove that the mechanics of Aristotelian physics and Neoplatonic metaphysics are the actual, literal mechanisms of biblical theology. To build this framework, Maimonides employs a technique known as semantic equivalence. He maps ancient, highly guarded rabbinic mysteries directly onto established Greek scientific disciplines. This diagram shows Maimonides mapping the biblical account of creation, Maseh Bereshit, onto Aristotelian physics and cosmology. Next, Ezekiel's vision of the divine chariot, Maseh Merkava, morphs into metaphysics, explicitly stripping away the literal image of God sitting on a physical throne. Equating Holy Scripture with pagan Greek philosophy carried immense political and social danger. It threatened the literalist dogma of the ruling Almohad regime, who actively persecuted those they deemed heretical. To protect his readers, Maimonides engineered a defense mechanism into the text, deliberate, esoteric obfuscation. He formatted the book as an epistle or personal letter to a specific student named Joseph ben Judah. He took his most volatile arguments and scattered them across non-linear chapters, refusing to put all the pieces of a single concept in one place. The physical book acts as an intellectual filter, demanding the reader actively reconstruct the philosophical model themselves, proving their cognitive capacity to receive the truth. Once you piece the text together, you arrive at the core technical problem of the guide. How does an infinite, entirely incorporeal God interact with a finite physical universe? If God physically molded matter, it would imply he has a body. That reduces his infinity and breaks the absolute, indivisible unity that monotheism requires. This flow diagram illustrates Maimonides' framework of emanation. God creates by imparting form, the essence of a thing, to an unformed, chaotic substrate. This allows for divine governance, controlling the rhythms of nature remotely by pushing these forms down through reality. This downward flow is mediated by layers of incorporeal intellects. Maimonides identifies these intellects as the exact same entities that Scripture calls angels, and they guide the motions of the celestial spheres. Maimonides argued that God purposefully granted humanity a nature capable of deviance to respect our individuality. Because God knows particulars through the unique forms of our minds, this system allows for providential guidance without reverting to strict determinism. Emanation functions as the necessary ontological bridge. God remains the ultimate cause and guide of all reality, without ever compromising his absolute, unified incorporeality. But a physical universe inevitably produces friction. This leads Maimonides to the Epicurean dilemma. If God is entirely good and governs nature, why do natural disasters and moral evils exist? He defines evil as privation, specifically a lack of form, order, or knowledge. While physical matter is a divine gift that allows things to exist outside God, it's inherently unstable. Matter cannot permanently hold form, and that impermanence is the root of all decay. The endless jockeying of elements competing for form is what results in earthquakes, floods, and inevitable physical death. This concept extends to human behavior. All moral vice and cruelty are forms of intellectual privation, a lack of wisdom and knowledge in the human mind. Which raises a vital question for a theologian. How does an infinite God communicate clear instructions through all this chaotic, decaying material noise? This brain schematic demonstrates the mechanics of prophecy. Pure divine emanation interacts with human biology. True prophets possess highly trained imaginations, projecting these pure concepts into linguistic symbols and laws for the masses to understand. Under this model, evil is merely the static noise of the physical world. Prophecy is the ultimate signal, perfectly tuned to the biological receiver of the human brain. This brings us back to the initial conflict that sparked the guide, the clash between the literal interpretation of ancient scripture and the empirical truths of science. Maimonides resolves this by supplying a philosophical reinterpretation of the Genesis creation story, specifically regarding humanity. Maimonides defines the biblical phrase image and likeness of God as a technical reference to human reason, the rational intellect. Consequently, the biblical commandments, or mitzvot, take on a specific utilitarian purpose. These laws and rituals serve as historical tools to tame physical passions and build moral virtue. Achieving moral perfection and physical discipline is not the end goal. It is merely the prerequisite for the true human objective, intellectual perfection. Maimonides identifies silent meditation on the natural sciences as the peak of worship. This geometric web illustrates the guide as a grand intellectual bridge, linking Aristotelian logic, Islamic metaphysics, and Torah law into a single, unified pursuit of truth. Maimonides constructed a survival guide for the intellect. He proved to his readers that the highest expression of faith is the fearless, rational pursuit of reality.